Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's instalment of the Sulky Show. And as you can see, we have got a special guest. We've got Sarah Thomas. Sarah Thomas, a fixture and fitting, of course, on the harness racing circuit. And at no expense spared, we have got the one and only Stephen Lees. S. Lees Jr. is joining us this evening. How are you, Stephen? And how are you, Sarah?
Oh, Stephen,
I'm good, thanks.
I was going to say, I'll let Stephen go first. Nice of you to join us.
Yeah, thanks for asking me.
And I'm good as well. I'm alive and kicking.
You're not going to charge an awful lot tonight, are you, Stephen?
No, mates rates.
Mates rates. Hey, and talking of your career in harness racing, I mean, it's stepping up a gear now.
Yeah, doing my driving test. I've done 2 so far. Got 1 more to do Saturday at York.
So, for those who don't know out there, how does it all work when someone wants to get a driving license? What's the procedure?
There's the form, and I went to do it last year, but I was too young. So I went to, first thing this year, got straight into it. And there's the form, and they send. Hold on.
Oh.
I apply for my license, and if it'll come through, I've got one of them. They sent me through a license, and it's pretty easy, really. You just go to the meetings, and they fill out the back. And
then, what do you have to do? What do you have to prove to the stewards when you're out on the track?
Well, it's that you're capable, really. That it was. At first, I was really nervous, if am I going to pass? There's horses everywhere, but it's all right when you're out there. I think it's more that they've got to figure out how you're driving. It's for you. If you're going to go in a race, I suppose it's really handy, really. If you don't have it and you just go straight into the races, it's going to be kamikaze.
Yeah, how safe you are, how competent you are. And has it been plain sailing up to now?
So far, yeah. No, no crashes anyway.
I've been very impressed. I have to say, I've been very impressed. Now, Air Eagle is obviously the horse of choice here, Reggie. What I will say is the way the workouts have panned out at York, and the way that Craig Stevenson has framed them. I mean, you've basically been in race conditions. Certainly last week, you were in a 7-horse workout, and you were in with Colford Tetrick the week before. So it has been. Very often you see young drivers who are on horses, experienced handicap horses, in a qualifier with genuine qualifiers, and a young driver can get 10 lengths clear very quickly and cruise around. And I don't expect there's a huge amount of education involved in that. And the stewards have got to say to them the following week, we need you to trail 20 yards this week because we've got to see you pass horses, because you will pass horses in a race, you have to. But the way that it's panned out for you and Reggie is that, you've been dropped in essentially race-like conditions, and you've had to race. You've not, you haven't even come home in the qualifiers in front because you've been in such stiff competition with potential free-for-allers and very, very high-class handicap horses. So, I mean, I was very impressed last week, definitely, because you were in, out, on the rail, out passing horses. Great experience.
I've come to a problem. I'd like to whip him, and there's. Like you say, I'm lucky for the competition I'm in with. They're not dangerous horses. They've proven themselves to be race horses.
And how much direction, how much does your dad say to you?
Hardly anything, really. When I started doing it, I thought, oh, it's going to be do this, do that. But he's just let me get out there and do it. And I had to have a tip. My whip, I couldn't hold my whip because I cut my finger last week, and I couldn't hold my whip with the reins, and he taught me how to do it, and it was absolutely brilliant. Not that I use the whip.
And no, listen, there are moves at the BHRC to ban whips. And what about the commentating career? Is that on hold?
There's not really been much talk about it, really, because the COVID-19 stopped a lot of it. I had a few meetings to do this year, but a lot of them have been cancelled.
Yeah. Well, that's something for your retirement.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
you're
great. Yeah,
retired.
the racing career's over. You can just, you know, do the commentary at that point.
You know, when
Yeah,
you're 10 driver and you pack in.
yeah.
And when Darren's retired, because right now Darren doesn't want you taking his job.
No, no. I've got a mortgage.
Neither does my dad.
So, guys, right, let's move on to a bit of controversy regarding Corbiewood. We were really hoping that Friday night, July 31st, was going to see the first Corbiewood meeting of the year. And we're really disappointed. Everyone in harness racing very disappointed. Last week, there was a meeting with councillors and the local police involving Cathy Shields representing Corbiewood, Craig Stevenson, who was instrumental in starting the racing at York this year and was instrumental in compiling the COVID-19 protocols. And also on the meeting, we had Jim McAnally representing the BHRC, and we were good to go. After that meeting, we got the green light, good to go, July 31st. Now, even though the Scottish governments have stated in their roadmap sports were not permitted to open up or were not permitted to start until August 1, with the exception of elite sport, i.e. thoroughbred racing. And lo and behold, on Tuesday evening, we received an email notifying us from the council and from Sport Scotland there could be an issue with racing on Friday. We had to I had to send an email to the government up in Scotland, stating harness racing's case, that, you know, there are people who are actually relying on harness racing for a living. There are offshoots of that. We have a breeding industry, and it's important that we start racing in Scotland because competitors in Scotland are at the moment having to travel long distances to race elsewhere. And we had to push them for an answer, and it got to tea time today, that answer from Sport Scotland stating that we can't race tomorrow. However, we've got a contingency plan in place to race on Sunday afternoon at Corbiewood, but we will not know the answer until lunchtime tomorrow. We will not know one way or the other whether that's possible until lunchtime tomorrow. It has to now go to ministerial level. Now, it's really frustrating because we're bearing in mind we had the green light last week from the council and the police, and all of a sudden they've bowled this our way. I'm very, very disappointed in the Scottish government. Very, very disappointed. Anyway, we won't get too political on this one.
No, and fingers crossed we can actually get the meeting on Sunday, because I have to say that the SHRC committee, the volunteers at Corbiewood, they've put a lot of hard work and effort in the last couple of weeks into making sure that the protocols, BHRC protocols, and also just general government guidance was going to be met in terms of, you know, social distancing and signs and posters around the track, and a lot of thought and effort's gone into this. A lot of hard work behind the scenes that a lot of people who you know, don't come to Corbiewood, who don't do harness racing at all, won't really appreciate or understand. You know, a lot of people have worked really hard, and for this to happen right at the last minute is a bit of a kick in the teeth for them. But fingers crossed we can get the go ahead for Sunday, because at least it's something. At least we can get started, and everyone who's entered actually gets a chance to race their horse as well.
Absolutely. And have you had a look at the card at all, Sarah?
I've had a quick scan through. It's 5 races, so I mean, in theory, I should be able to pick a couple of winners off a 5 race card, but you know, my form is poor at the best of times. There's
It's a really good card, to be fair. It's an interesting card.
Well, it is, because some of these horses haven't actually been seen this year. They've been out in some of the workouts that Corbiewood staged in the last few Friday nights. But actually, a lot of these horses will have just been working out privately, essentially, when they go to the track and they pay for the usage, just, you know, on weekdays and things like that. So a lot of these horses are fresh. Nobody's seen them. Therefore, you know, we don't know where they are fitness-wise. We don't know where, you know, we just don't know how these races are going to pan out at all. There's a couple of horses that are on the card that have been seen at York in recent weeks. So you know, you can kind of think of those runs, you know, although I think most of them have only sort of they've been placed a couple of, Stash the Cash was a winner last week. She's on the card. Those runs would have brought those horses on. Stepping back to Corbiewood from York, the difference in the size of the track sometimes can be beneficial for horses coming back off the half-mile track. So, for example, True Matter in race 1, raced at York last week, was 4th. Drawn 1 on Sunday, hopefully. You know, you would like to think that horse, having had that good spin around York last week, might be able to hold this position there, lead out, and could go really, really well. There's a couple of other horses in the race. first ever start. So you don't know how they're going to go. Double Luck, we've seen in a couple of qualifiers and workouts at York. Crosshill Cadillac, I've bred that horse. He's been in a couple of workouts at Corbiewood. So that to me is a wide open race. Same with the second race. Again, these horses, it's a secret. It's been running at York and actually improving every start at York. Steps back to Corbiewood, could go very, very well against horses that haven't been seen this season. The third race, very much the same. Meadowbranch Titus has been seen at York. The others, Dale on Vacation was third on his first start of the season at York last week after quite a long layoff, I think. So those horses you would expect to carry that fitness from York back into Corbiewood. Once you get up into the slightly higher grade paces, they become even more competitive as far as I see them. Dash the Cash, a win last week, went very, very well. ATM's been to York. Lose My Mind's been to York. And Air Paparazzi, who's been to York, has changed hands now. Joseph Riley's now the owner, trainer, driver of Air Paparazzi, coming up to Scotland to race. So very competitive race. Dash the Cash I was impressed with last week at York, so I'd like to see her go well at Corbiewood. And then when you look at the top grade pace, you've got the likes of Lions Nant Hall, who was placed at York a couple of weeks ago. You've got Northern Pride, who's been there a couple of times. Good quality horses and good quality Scottish horses that are Corbiewood specialists as well. Your Blackfield Birds, Better by Best, Vernwy Smoke, very, very consistent performer as well. Tyler Camden. So good competitive racing at Corbiewood if they can get the card on.
And one thing I've got to say, just looking at the card, there may not be stacks and stacks of horses running, but the quality is there. I'm really impressed with the quality.
Yeah, well, like I say, we've seen some of these horses come to York, and obviously last week at York, 5 of the 10 winners were Scottish trained. There are quality horses in Scotland, across the grades as well. We've got horses coming through, but we've also got some of those seasoned handicappers that potentially have been brought in from Ireland, been brought in from England, from maybe bigger stables, down to kind of the people who sometimes, are training horses part-time outside of their work. So the quality, the pool of horses is there in terms of quality. 5 races doesn't sound like a huge number. We're normally used to 6 races minimum at Corbiewood. That is kind of the standard of the previous seasons. Different circumstances this year, but a 5-race card like that, nobody could turn their nose up at.
So fingers crossed it gets the go-ahead. We'll know lunchtime or early tomorrow afternoon. The contingency plan is to stage this meeting on Sunday afternoon. The card will stand as it is. We may have to be a bit flexible with driver changes because obviously people's arrangements change by in 48 hours. So hopefully it gets the go-ahead. Then we've got York Saturday, Amman Valley Sunday. First of all, let's touch on the York card. Mammoth size card at York on Saturday. We've got the heats of the 2- and 3-year-old championships, the new British and Irish championships. Obviously, they're a bit short on runners, some of these races. What are your thoughts, Sarah? Just an overview of the card at York.
It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day and a lot of photos for Sarah. That's all right, especially because I've got to take photos of Stephen in his qualifier and his third driver test on Reggie to start with. It looks good. I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, the 2- and 3-year-old races are a little light on runners, but the quality is there. And most of these horses we've seen racing at Tier Prince in the 2-year-old events and the 3-year-old events that were there a couple of weeks ago. You have got some new faces coming out of qualifiers and workouts, stepping up into these races as well. There's some notable absentees in terms of the 2-year-old colts. Air Camelot and Yerkes Hanover was a very good head-to-head at Tier Prince. Air Camelot not in the race here. So Yerkes Hanover is probably a standout of the juveniles. But wasn't expecting that. I think we'll come on for the runs and having a conversation here about those 2 horses in particular. Wasn't expecting that. Is eligible for other 2-year-old races later in the season that Yerkes Hanover isn't. And for me, he was a very, he looks like he could be an improving horse. Of the 3-year-olds, slightly more wide open. There's some interesting races. There's the stables with no winners. I like the look of that race. I like those kind of condition races.
I like the concept. Well done to Slim for that.
Yeah, it's things like that I kind of like because there's been quite a wide array of winners at York this season. We had that week a couple of weeks ago where there were 9 races, I think, and there were 9 different winning drivers and 9 different winning trainers. Things like that, it's nice for the money to get shared out amongst as many people as possible, really, because the circumstances we're under right now, it's just kind of helps out because people have put a lot of faith in keeping these horses in training and keeping racing. So a race like that for stables that haven't had new winners this season, that's a great concept. I think could be an interesting race as a preferred race.
Give the little trainers a chance.
Exactly. And whilst you're here, I want to quiz you a little bit. There's a trot that there's 2 trots actually that I'm particularly interested in. The trots right now are so wide open. But you have a trotter, Stephen, that I was very, very impressed with at Tier Prince on his first start, Calimero Brue.
Yeah.
So what can you tell us about him?
He's a bit of a backwards horse. He at home he looks at everything. He'll try and step anything, and at the track he's placid, just calm and quiet, and doesn't look at a thing, which is so confusing.
He's got it back to front. But look, I was impressed. At Tier Prince, I was very impressed that the way your dad drove him, the way that he finished. He was finished second behind. Was it
Equileda Hawaii?
Yeah, and so she's in the race as well. So she's come into the race with form. But I did feel the last time. I think I said to you, Darren, in our roundup at the end of Tier Prince, that I thought Calimero Brewer was a horse to really keep an eye on in the next couple of starts. It looks a very competitive trot though, because you've obviously got Diamant de Gadrell in there as well.
But remember, this is a handicap, so there's a 30-yard handicap.
There's the 30 yards.
You are getting that head start, and you're obviously getting a 10-yard head start on the Horty as well. Hoey, Katie Perry's going to go crazy because she thinks I'm improving my French, and I am. From where I started, but I'm probably still miles away with some of these horses' names. And Bacage de Fournay as well, who I think is a horse that's in form. So it's a very competitive race. But are you quietly confident? Are you and your dad quietly confident with your horse?
Well, he's all right. He qualified at York brilliant, and we don't know, the way he goes at home is completely different to the way he goes at the track.
So you just don't know what to expect then. When you get there on Saturday, you just don't know what to expect.
I led him off the box. You don't know if he's going to jump on you or just walk off with his ears pricked, not caring. But it's...
Steve, have you driven...
To us,
Say that again, Darren.
Have you driven trotters at home as well?
No, not the trotters. I work a few paces out and try and jog them, but... Oh, no, I did. I've jogged him. I've jogged Calimero.
Yeah.
But I haven't worked him.
Right.
Once we get you your driving license, and you've started off with the paces, it'll be the trotters next.
Yeah.
So.
I think there's some short price favourites on the card. Some lovely horses on the card. We've got Annie Vai, who's a star. You mentioned Yerkes Hanover, who looks a star in the making. I think there will be some short price favourites. Matusius, he's back on track Saturday. It really is a good quality card, connoisseur's card.
Yeah, and there's a horse. I think my pick of last week, a horse that I thought would go on to win imminently. My choice there was My Left Foot. I've just looked here. My Left Foot is in quite a competitive race alongside Lions Queen, who was a winner at Tier Prince, and has that. And Lions Queen drawn 2, My Left Foot drawn 9. Darcy Camden's in the race. I'm impressed with My Left Foot. I can't deny I am impressed with My Left Foot, but that's a very competitive race that for him to drop into there, for me to have been so confident after his last performance that he was going to be a winner next time out, or very, very shortly. That quality of race, he's got a lot to do there, and a lot of traffic to pass. But competitive races like that, they do make the best spectacle. It is good. I like to see a race when there's multiple horses you think are in a really, really strong shape. And we have the top race so far. York, the last race, the top grade pace has been an absolute spectacle. I think every single week for one reason or another. And we've got Merrington moving up back out. I was impressed with the way Rob Hall went last week to finish 4th. Albeit there were 3 horses finished together and he was kind of behind them. But I thought he went very well considering the layoff he's had. Spring Hill Glory's been knocking on the door. Driver change I noticed there. John Innes off, John Henry Nicholson on. Lakeside Paddy, with the race he won at Tier Prince, just beating miraculous. What a run he put in there. So even though there's only 5 runners,
it became a sprint finish, that race, didn't it, Sarah? And what about Teddy Camden's chances?
He's been going all right. He's been had some tough trips. He was 4th at Tier Prince last time. He just he's got little man syndrome. He's very angry at the start, but everyone gets stressed and it makes me laugh. And
it might be the case though that your dad's got the plum draw there, drawn 1, and York doesn't tend to be sprint finishes. They tend to go pretty hard into that first quarter. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Steve Lees and Teddy Camden really going away a flyer there. Whether that sets it up for a closing horse or not, I don't know, because they're such good quality horses anyway. They can all do sub 2 minute miles.
Right, I want your naps now. Come on, Sarah, your nap for your. You don't like this question, I know, but come on.
Although, while we're on the subject, my nap at York last week got beat with second, but my nap at Amman Valley, we didn't even mention this, my nap at Amman Valley was Camden and Emma Langford, and I watched that replay. That was a pretty comfortable win there for Emma. And Frank, as he's known. I mean, I'd have called him Christy, but Di and Belinda called him Frank. Right, so my nap for York. No, I hate this bit. I'm going to play it really, really safe. I am going to play it really, really safe, although I think you've mentioned a different horse as the favourite in this race. I am going to go with Which Guy Am I in the 3-year-old colts, the BHRC, or the British and Irish Juvenile Series 3-year-old colts. I'm going Which Guy Am I, because I was very impressed with him at Tier Prince.
Okay, come on, Stephen, your nap for York.
I have to go with Darcy Camden.
Darcy Camden.
Right, I'm going to write these down. Right, Darren, what's yours? Don't move on to Ammanford before you give yours.
Sorry?
You've got to give yours. You're not getting away with it.
I'll go Brave Warrior in the Maiden Novice, race 8.
Okay, good choice. I'm
really well.
That horse comes out, because of the way it ran in its first start, I was impressed with that. Stablemate Rogue Warrior's done well in between. I'd like to see Brave Warrior where that horse is at now, because he posted a good time when he was third first time out.
Yeah, so there's 3.
I've got a mental note.
And what about the Amman Valley card, Sarah? Have we had a look at the Amman Valley card Sunday?
I have had a quick look through. I don't think my selections last week were overly successful, although I did, as I would like to mention for the 15th time, I did have the winner there, Christy Camden, which was my nap of the meeting. So, you know, it's quality over quantity when it comes to my tips. There's a couple of horses on the card that I'm interested to see first time out. Race 1, Floyne's Springer, is a half-sister to Floyne's Delight, who was a recent winner out in Cork with the Manning family. Floyne's Springer, again, trained by Emma Langford at the track, so knows the track and has gone nicely in qualifiers. So she's been dropped in, although she's an unraced 3-year-old, she's been dropped in there, and she needs to do these races because I think she is actually safe for a couple of stakes races. So it's time for her to get racing and learn what it's all about in real competition. Dare to Dream.
Nicely bred. Doombeg Bonchan.
Yes, that really does draw the eye. You know, in light of Doombeg winners in the last couple of weeks, and as I mentioned, then Bonchan with Floyne's Delight out in Ireland, and having run well at Portmarnock as well, when you imagine him to be more of a grass track horse than a hard track horse. Of the other races, the Real Rogue and Kentucky Jungle Joe, both winners last week, both fall into the same race this week. So it'll be interesting to see whether it's one of those two that comes out of this race as the winner, or whether there's other horses in the race. Lane House Girl was second last time out as well, and Zipcar one's run at Tier Prince. So that's quite a competitive race, albeit 5 runners. You know, it is quality over quantity. It is how competitive a race is, not how many runners are in it. Christy Camden is back out, possibly a slightly harder kind of race here, in so much as he's drawn 6. You know, he's drawn 6, was on the second line, but I felt watching Christy Camden last week that he was ability-wise quite a way clear of his competitors, actually having watched the performance. So I'm still going to go Christy Camden. I'm going to go for a quick fire double there. You know, 2 on the banks for Di and Belinda Corbett. Of the other remaining races, we get into the higher grade races. Calavari Motivator was second at Tier Prince, a good second at Tier Prince last Wednesday, albeit with a 10-yard trail here at Amman Valley on Sunday. Probably would still go with him, to be honest. Michael Amani's horses have been going quite nicely. You know, he's had a couple of winners and also placed efforts as well. And then you get into the grade 2 to 5, the last race on the card. Masquerade Avenue was second last week. I've been looking at Masquerade Avenue, Colin Bevan. Ladyford Express didn't go particularly well last week, was a winner of Tier Prince the week before that. So, and we did talk about how Reen Wilson's horses were in good form. I know that Reen's driving, not Joby Randall. So I've been looking at Ladyford Express and Masquerade Avenue for the last race there as well. So just a couple. Please don't ask me for a nap. Please don't ask me for a nap. Because
Stephen, anything to add?
In the last race, My Buddy. I just think, I don't know, he seems I know he's the way he went. I watched him go at Cannock last year, and he seems to come on late, close in late.
You're right. He's got quite stamina is kind of his thing. He's a good, genuine racehorse. He's a good selection. As they all are. I'm always loath to not mention people's horses because I don't want people to think that I don't rate their horses, but I'm trying to steer the betting public towards absolute clangers most of the time by the looks of it. But my buddy's a good choice. Alan Jones has had a bit of success with him.
Guys, just looking further ahead, next week, big week of racing. Derby night at Tier Prince. It's going to be a mega night of racing. Lots of Group 1s. You've got the BHRC Classic, the Derby, the Oaks Pacing Classic. There are some of the Dragon races as well on the card. Next week, I think we should have a Derby special, don't you?
There we go. Well, this is our Derby day. Epsom Derby. It's all about the BHRC Derby at Tier Prince.
Yeah. Any more news? Anything else to add? Any gossip? No.
We're just looking forward to Saturday now. We need to get more photos of Stephen and Reggie. He's the first person on. After a race meeting. Did you get any pictures of me and Reggie? Did I get pictures of you and Reggie? Of course I did. That's why I go.
The house is literally a shrine of pictures of Reggie.
Shrine of Reggie.
Here we go.
Oh, I recognise that. I recognise that piece of art.
This is the Hall of Fame. Stephen, so it's your third test this week.
Yeah, my third one. Third.
And then, do we get the green light after this week?
Yeah, you can do, but I think I'm going to go on a few more, get a bit more confidence. Like every week, I'm feeling a bit more relaxed and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then questions. There's a theory part to it as well, Darren. I have noticed this. Jason Podmore. I saw him do the theory part of it with John Innes and Ryan Asquith and Adam Jenkins, the new drivers that were going through the qualifying workout days doing their tests. There's a couple of questions. Just are you aware of kind of some of the driving rules that are in the rule book? So get reading that rule book, Stephen, and ask your dad. Your dad will know it inside out. You've been around the block a few times.
So this is the Harness Race Highway Code.
Basically, yeah.
Live streaming, of course, on Saturday. We're going to have to condense the live stream because it's going to be a long programme, in theory, at York on Saturday. And I've been told when we do our wrap at the end of the night, our review, that's just going to be on Facebook this week.
Okay.
We haven't got we don't have enough minutes on the live stream for our review. So we're on Facebook.
This is an opportunity for us to just stop doing it, but I enjoy doing it too much, so let's just do it on Facebook.
Yeah. Right. So, guys, well, that's a wrap then. It's been great to have a special guest on the show tonight. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you for inviting me.
And good luck on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'll come back off the track the first time 2-1. And I thought I couldn't believe it. 2-1.
You'll be going sub 2 minutes shortly. Watch out.
And of course, the British and Irish horses, they continue in good form across the water as well, which is great news.
Yes.
It's my thing in a good time the other day.
Yeah, one of the race at the Meadows.
Yeah, they're all doing really well. Yeah. Right, guys. So, great end of racing. Look forward. Let's hope Corbiewood gets the green light. If it's not going to be, it's not Friday night, but let's hope it gets the green light for Sunday afternoon. We've got Amman Valley on Sunday afternoon and York, of course, on Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
So watching the Sulky show. We'll be back next week, and I'd like to think we'll be back next week with a Derby special.
We will. We've
right.
it now to video. This is the evidence for everyone to throw back in my face all next week. We promised we'd do it. So this is me officially signing up to do a Derby special.
And regarding the Derby, I do believe I'll be making the draws on Tuesday evening.
Okay.
So we'll have the live draws on Facebook Tuesday evening.
Good stuff.
Okay. Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.